awaits, very good, from the prodigal son. Your father awaits from the prodigal son. Then last week we had the conference. So the conference was during the week of the Samaritan woman. Actually, it was the Feast of the Annunciation. So the gospel of the day was not about that. So today is the 5th week of Lent. Today is which Sunday? Paralytic man. So we're going to be talking, Eman is going to talk with us about... I've got my hand.
Okay, for those who don't know me, my name is Eman. They've mentioned it a few times. And I want to apologise before I start. I want to apologise because my Slido's not working. There's supposed to be a lovely QR code for you. This is very echoey. Can I talk without this?
No.
You're too good.
You're saying I'm really quiet. Okay, so the talk today, I will tell you what it's about in a minute. But it's going to be different things for different people because it's not going to be focused on one thing. I apologise, I know I should be focusing on one thing, but you'll see why when we get to it. So we'll start with just what word comes to mind when you think of God. You can just shout out, there's no Slido.
Life.
Life. Love.
My father.
Father.
Strength.
Strength. Guidance.
Creator.
Creator. Yeah, all good? Okay, do you ever think of that word? Works. He's working. Do you ever think of our God as a working God? Our Father as a working Father? So this is what we're going to concentrate on today. So the Gospel that we're looking at, John 5, 1 to 23, which is the story of today, the paralytic man at the pool of Bethesda. So I'm going to ask again, I know I do this whenever I do a talk, but get your Bibles ready, get them out, get your phones out, get your Bible app open. We will be looking back at this again and again as we're going through the talk. But we're going to talk about our Father working. He is a Father who works. Philo of Alexandria, he says, God never ceases working. But, okay, this is a translation by the way. But as it is the property of fire to burn, and the property of snow to be cold, so it is the property of God to work. And in that gospel, Christ says something, one line that we're looking at. What do you think it is? Have a quick flick through John 5, 1 to 23.
Do you want to get healed?
Nah. The clue is here.
Work.
Okay.
Huh? Yeah? Okay, so my Father has been working until now, and I have been working, or I am working. So this is how we're getting to this topic. So my Father has been working until now. Got him in trouble saying this. The Pharisees were none too happy. But we'll have a look at that in a little bit. I'm sorry if I've got lots of words on my slides, because just in case you didn't have your Bibles. But if you look at Genesis 2, 2 to 3, and on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from his work which God had created and made. 3 times it says what? Worked. God worked. Okay? His creation is a work, a masterpiece. And in some ways, it's strange that our God, our Father, is a working God. So in the old days, it wasn't a good thing to work. If you had the money, if you were successful, other people could work for you. Okay, so I get Natalie to do my stuff for me. Eden can do my cooking. John can do my PT. It was not an honourable thing to work. And yet, from the very beginning, God himself says, I worked. I'm going to repeat it for you just in case you didn't get it, you know? I worked. On the seventh day I rested from my work. And yeah, I'm resting because I worked. So work and greatness rarely went together. And for the pagans around, for the Roman gods, the Greek gods, the whatever, did they work? Why did the Roman gods create human people, like humans? Why? The Greek gods. They would come down, they would get in, like have an affair, do this, have a look at people's lives. They were having a whale of a time, these gods. Zeus and, can't remember all the others, Aphrodite and everybody else. Nothing was more alien to them than a working God. And our Father glories in our work. So Genesis 2:15. So God has created the world. So 6 days of creation, 7th he rested, and then he made man. And the Lord took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work. I'll come to the words in a minute. To work it and take care of it, or keep it, you might say in your versions. And the Hebrew word for work is abed, which comes like the Arabic, which is what? Slave. To serve. And he put Adam in the garden to slave in it and to take care of it, to keep it, to protect it. Why? Why is he saying this? Why is he putting us humans in charge of a world where, well, the Garden of Eden, this is before the fall, was what? Was it imperfect? Would he make something imperfect? Okay, so it was perfect. So why does he need Adam to work at the garden? Because what?
Because he created him in his image.
Okay, beautiful. He created Adam in his image. God is a worker. He works. God didn't need man to fix it. He didn't need them, like Adam to, make these flowers look more beautiful than they already are. He didn't need that. He was providing Adam and humans, us, with a place to work, to flourish, to grow, to build, to create. How many of you have ever planted anything? How did you feel when it, before it died? I'm sure it died. No, maybe not. Maybe you guys are great. How, it died. Mine died all the time. But what do you get with that sense when something is growing that you have planted? Accomplishment?
You feel fatherly, like paternal. You feel like that's like a child.
You feel fatherly. Do you know, my very first plant when I moved in, after I got married, I had a tomato plant. And I felt like it was my child. And when it died, I never had a plant. It took me a year to get over it. It was like, I'm never having a plant again.
With me, I cloned my plants, so then my baby plant had its own babies, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like a grandparent now.
I'm not going to repeat that. Okay.
Yeah.
So work was godlike. Work wasn't a curse. Okay, work was not a curse. And I got here the abad and samar, the two words, to work and to take care of, in the Hebrew. They're used elsewhere in the Old Testament in worshipping God. That was the context they were used. Our work worships God. It shows, it's a form of worship. I bet you never thought that on a Monday morning, right? I don't want to go to work. But work was not a curse. Work was because we were built in his image. It was a God-like gift. I will give you the chance to flourish, to create, to work. Think of that on Monday morning, which is tomorrow. How many hours? Okay. I've got a couple of verses here. You can look them up in your own Bibles. I have chosen some translations which are New King James, some from different Bibles, you'll see slight differences maybe. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labour is not in vain in the Lord. In the garden, after the fall, what happened to the work in the garden? Was it nice and easy? Did everything flourish? What did God say about the work in the garden after the fall? You have to labour. Yeah? Labour hard. You have to toil. Toil is not a nice word. If I go to a job interview and they say you're going to have to toil, I say thank you very much. I'll stay in my old job, thank you. But in the New Testament, we come back to that word, the labouring and the toiling. And your labour is not in vain. He brings it back. So yes, work was hard. And then it was brought back in the New Testament, the New Covenant. I'm going to bring it back to what it was. It was a glory. Whatever you do it heartily, even in the morning. And as to the Lord, not as to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. For you serve, do we see that word again? Serve, which we had in the garden. Yeah? It's different because it's in the Greek, but it's the same idea. You serve the Lord Christ. I want you to remember this on your days when you can't handle it anymore, just screaming inside. You are doing this to serve God. We work, we toil, and we labour, but it's a labour of love. And if you want to practice, you can come over to mine and you can do the washing up. I'll fill the sink for you. Okay. I'm going to skip this actually, but okay. Can I get somebody else to read? Mirai, can you read it?
For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them.
Okay, how many times do you see the word work or works? It's not a test.
3.
Wow, you guys are slow. How many times?
3.
Three times. So we have, it is the gift of God, not of works. So this is where grace is a gift. Okay? We don't deserve to be saved. Grace is a gift, not from our works. And we are his workmanship. So you think of the potter and the potter's hand. And does that mean we don't do any good works? Does that mean we can just lie back and be saved because we have been made wonderfully on the potter's wheel? Or do we have a responsibility? We are created in Christ Jesus for good works. Okay, I'm not going to go into that too much, but those of us who are at the retreat, like a reminder. I've got here, God sees your work as worthy of its own commandment. There was a commandment that said, you shall work 6 days. So we love to do the rest thing. Yeah, the Sabbath was a day of rest. But the commandment was, you shall work 6 days, and on the 7th day you shall rest. This is God-given. He sees our work, what we do in our daily lives, not just on a Sunday. Not just on a Friday evening at feast or whatever you do, or in your little prayer time in the morning. Your whole day, your whole work day, it's worthy. Our work matters to God. Our work imitates God as a worker, as a working father. I've got here, shouldn't it glorify him too? We're at work, 40 hours a week, unless you're a doctor. 70 hours, I don't know how long you go to, but 100 hours a week. Yeah. The doctors. That day of rest wasn't for God. God doesn't need rest. That day of rest was a gift for us. But our work our daily lives. If you're at home looking after kids, if you're a nursery teacher, if you're studying, if you're still a student, that is still your job. That is your work. That is your role. Okay, but then we come back to the gospel. When did Jesus heal the paralytic at the pool? On the Sabbath. Like he couldn't choose any other day. There are 6 other days, and he decided to do it on the Sabbath. Even though the commandment said, you shall rest on the Sabbath. So wasn't God breaking his own laws?
This is not the rest that he meant.
It's not the rest that he meant. Nah, he's a very big man. It's not the rest he was talking about. Restoring what is broken, fixing, healing. This is not rest. Like this is part of his purpose. This is his ultimate plan. But we kind of get caught up in our little personal concerns and our religious concerns, and it's the Sabbath, and it's this, and he said this, and he didn't use this word before that word, and I can't believe it. He didn't sing in the right tone, she didn't do this, she didn't wear her thing right.
I was just saying, because I was reading the Bible recently, and I was reading Job, and there's a passage in Job which would have been like almost the perfect response for Jesus to have used in this instance as well. I'll just read it quickly if you don't mind. And it goes, so the Lord says to Job, when Job questions God's works, he says back to Job, who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man, and I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand, who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know, who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed the limits for it and set the doors and bars in place, when I said, this far you may come and no farther, here is where your proud ways halt. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? Or to, it's like...
Yeah, it's reminding me of an old Michael Card song. Do you remember the one? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like, who commands the sea to stop there? Who commands the moon to come out at night? Who where were you?
Tell me, who are you to tell me when to rest and when to heal my children? Like, it's like...
And he is Lord of the Sabbath. He initiated the Sabbath, and the Sabbath was not for him. The Sabbath was for us. It was a gift. And they turned that gift into something that went against God's plan. Okay, let's have a look quickly at John 5. So open it up. So you've got the pool of Bethesda. So the Sunday school story is that, not the Sunday school, I'm just thinking this is what we tell the kids. We shorten it and we say there was somebody who was sick there, who was lying down by the pool, and then the angel would come and stir the pool, and the first person to get into the pool would be healed. Okay, so this is the pool of Bethesda. And this guy was paralyzed. And it says in the Bible he was there for 38 years. Okay, that's older than most of you. Okay? That is your whole lifetime and some. That's a long time. And there was something that struck me in the gospel there. Cookie, can you just read verse 6?
When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he already had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, do you want to be made well?
Okay, stop that. So, did Jesus It's so easy for us to say, like looking back, yeah, he's got. At the time, the disciples are walking through, there's thousands, probably hundreds, maybe not thousands, like tens of people sitting by the pool, and Jesus knows how long everyone's been there for. 38 years, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, 5 months. He knew. So this is the next section I want to get to. He knows. There are times when we're in a deep mire. We are way down in the pit. And he knows. You know, there are the times of our hyperness and yeah, I'm having a great time with God and yes, it's amazing. And there are times when that's the face that we put on because when we're back in ourselves, on our own, we know things are not amazing. And it reminds me of a psalm which was David in the Psalms. He knew what it was like. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts? Every day have sorrow in my heart. I know everyone in this room will go through a sorrow of heart. Either you're in it, you've been through it, you will go through it. It's us. It will happen. Our lives are not going to be happy-jubbly all the time. And for some people it might be a couple of weeks. For some people it might be years. For some people they can only handle this much depth of the sorrow and it kills them. It's just like, I can't handle it. Some people, they can handle so much more and you just think, how are you okay with everything that's going on? How? You know, God has forgotten you. And I just think, that guy at the pool, like, khalas. When do you think he gave up? I think I would have given up after like a week. I've been here a whole week. Nobody's helped me get it. 38 years. I don't know if he's given up. I'm assuming, from my experience of me, that he's given up. He has completely given up. But God, he knew how long he'd been there. And then he asked the question that Cookie just read. Do you want to be made well? Does anybody have the answer? What does he answer? Did he say yes, I want to be made well? Did he say no, can't be bothered anymore? I have nobody to carry me. So is that yes or no?
No, but
Huh?
Yes,
Yes, but? There was no yes. I feel like he is. Do you know that stage in your life where you are just accepting? This is my life. That's it. This is what I have to go through.
He's in despair.
Despair. Like, I can't be bothered anymore. There's no one to help me. Do you want to be made well? I don't know anymore. I am so deep in my waiting and waiting and waiting. I put any faith to stand on. And that's who Jesus saw at the pool. Yeah, like, he's just accepting. It's not going to change. This is me. You know that there's sometimes something in our lives, like a sin, that we can't get rid of? And you fight in it, and then after a while you just go, oh, just forget it. I'm just
justify it.
Yeah, you start to justify it, which is what he did. Nobody will help me get in. And the word Bethesda, it's called this house of mercy. Bethesda, the house of mercy. So even where there is mercy, even where he sees people being healed, could you imagine? Like seeing somebody who's, for him, he's just blind. He's just deaf. He's just like, I am paralyzed. And yet I see these people jumping in and coming. Could you imagine the hopelessness? I can't imagine it. But
Amen. I have a question though. But like, isn't the fact that he's there still show that he has maybe a little bit of faith? Like he could have left.
I said barely any faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
But could he leave? Maybe he couldn't leave.
Maybe he could.
No one's helping him. Yeah.
No, but he says like,
tries to get in, someone gets in. So maybe he can leave. I don't know.
Maybe there's a little attempt. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm doing it on my own experience. If I have, sorry, in this day and age, how many of us go, oh, if the bus is like 1 minute late, 2 minutes, minutes, years. Like, we are so impatient for everything. So impatient. Oh no, this TikTok is 1 minute. I've seen people do that though. Yeah, don't I? Yeah. 30 seconds max, that's what I want. 30 seconds, quick. Next one.
You say there's also a sense of comfort that he's following. You could also think of it as a sense of comfort that he's fallen into. In this pool, there would be people who would come and deliver food and ensure his maintenance, perhaps.
That's it.
So, if you leave, you risk not getting these things to keep you going. So,
That's a good point.
Question. Why didn't anyone just put him in the pool?
I have no idea.
Matt?
Because everybody else had brains and he has got a really good answer.
Guys, do we think that the pool is, that really an angel comes and stirs the pool? This is a bit unfair, right? There was no such angel. It was a myth that an angel, it was just something that people said. There's no angel that comes to stir the pool, is one of the opinions of quite a few of the commentators, that it was just a myth that was told. And I don't think he saw people got healed, but when people left, he was thought, there's another one that got healed and left. So,
I also think there's probably some healings that happened from themselves. Like there are some things that my leg is broken. If I don't walk on it for a few days, it's better. So yes.
you have a question?
Sorry, how is it, and why would they think it's a myth? Because obviously, like, even in the Old Testament, we have, like, stories of, like, the guy who had leprosy and he went into the Jordan or something and he was healed. Like, God could have done that, so it could have been something like a pilgrimage that people would go to.
there are definitely miracles in the Old Testament. That particular one that you mentioned is of one of his prophets sending by order a foreigner to go and wash and then come back healed of his leprosy. So it's an order by God through one of his prophets. There is nothing to suggest that this pool healed in and of itself by just the first person that goes in. It's not a lottery.
But they have recently found an archaeological site for it.
They might have found it because the pool of Bethesda is real.
The pool of Bethesda.
The pool of Bethesda is where they used to wash the lambs on entering into Jerusalem for them to be slaughtered.
Sorry, last bit. So I just wanted to say, so couldn't, like, I don't know, the Pharisees or whatever, like, couldn't it be part of the, like, Jewish system that this was something that would happen, like a miracle that God would allow? Like, why would that be something that would be impossible? And also, like, I don't like remember word for word, but does it imply that only one person gets healed?
Yes.
Yeah. First.
But what if God wanted to do that because his plan was that after 38 years of him waiting, it would be for his, like, glorification? Does that make sense?
To go in the pool.
No, for him to heal that man after 38 years. To be like, even if you have no one to put you into this water, I will come and heal you.
No, I think
It might be, to be honest, that might be
God
the only
used
reason
the
the pool exists.
situation. He didn't create that situation.
I was going to say, Fee, you said exactly the same. That was the answer, like what you were saying.
No, I just meant, like, I don't, like, I agree, I didn't know that it was considered a myth. That's it. That's why I didn't know why it would be considered a myth. Because I get that it sounds not nice to be like only one person can be healed, but also, like, I don't think it's something that God wouldn't do. Like, it could happen. He could have created a system where people could be healed. But I guess the bit that doesn't match God's character is that only the one person could be healed.
I'm going to leave the pool for now though, because I want to get to a couple of other things. So, what we do know is that there were lots of sick people hanging around, lots of them, and he had been there a long time. Okay, And the long time, I've got Our Father Works in Our Waiting. A lot of you are quite young, but I remember even at your age, waiting was a big thing. Like, you wait for your GCSEs to be over, you wait for your A-levels, you wait to get to your first job, you wait to meet a partner, you wait, everything is waiting. And God can work and does work in the waiting. And we're going to look a little bit at the times of silence. So I've got up here the story of Joseph. So the story of Joseph takes about 10, maybe more chapters in the Old Testament in Genesis. But you kind of know Joseph with his coat. Yeah, he was the favourite son. And then the brothers did what? Tried to kill him. Then they realised, we can get some money out of this. So they sold him instead into slavery. Told the dad, he's dead. Sorry. And then he got sold into slavery to
The
chief of the Pharaoh, Potiphar. Yeah, so the chief of the Pharaohs. And he worked as a slave. We've looked at slave, we've looked at servers, we've looked at that word a lot. And he became successful. So, great. Now, the story of Joseph, from when he was in the pit to when he became successful, do you think that happened overnight? No. So he was successful even after what happened, the bad stuff that had happened. Okay, so he's successful. Good-looking guy. Who likes him?
Potiphar's wife.
Potiphar's wife, that's what he's saying. So she lies on the couch. And he says, no,
I'm good.
He says no. He's faithful. So she lies and gets him thrown into jail. Okay, he's been in the pit. He's been a slave. Now he's in jail. Okay, so he's in jail. Is he still a good guy? Is he still righteous? Yeah, he's pretty righteous. And then
he's lucky to have only been put in jail. Yeah, that's the truth.
So a butler and a baker come along, and he interprets their dreams. Baker dies. Butler, he says, or the guy who pours the wine, the cupbearer. The cupbearer, he says, remember me when you leave jail, okay? Easy? Easy to remember. I've interpreted your dreams. I've helped you here. Cupbearer gets out of jail. Who's Joseph? Can't even remember. Who's that? So, he's in jail. He's been forgotten. Forgotten. Until, I don't know how long it was. Does it even say in the Bible how long it was? It was over many chapters. Until Pharaoh has a dream. And then the cupbearer remembers, oh yeah, there's a guy called Joseph. He can interpret dreams. And then what happens at the end of that part of his story? Who does he become?
Second man.
The second man to the Pharaoh. He's a big guy now. He has power. He has authority. And there's a famine where? Everywhere. There's a famine everywhere. His family, his brothers that threw him in the pit, are they in a famine? No? Who said no? Yep. Yep. Okay, they're in a famine, and he helps them. I'm not going to go into all the story. It literally is a movie. Okay, Joseph's story is a movie. But have a look at Genesis 45. I just want two verses, verse 5 and verse 8. I don't know who's quick on there. Or you could just eat. Genesis 45, verse 5 and 8. So all this stuff has happened. He's a lot older now.
5 to 8.
Just 5 and 8.
Okay. One sec, Santalia. Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life.
Okay, say that again. He's talking to his brothers. Don't be, yeah, can you say it again?
Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. Verse 8.
And then
Now therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but God, and he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his household, and ruler over all the land of Egypt.
okay, who sent him? God. People will do bad things to you. Okay? Life is not a bed of roses. And Joseph could look back and go, I see God working. God did this. Did this, and I have now saved my family from famine. You want to say something, don't you?
You know.
I've lived with you for years.
So guys, who was Potiphar? Who does the Bible say Potiphar was?
He's the chief of police.
Chief of police, captain of the guard. What's one of his responsibilities?
Arrest criminals.
And he's also in charge of the prisons, especially Pharaoh's prison. Does he know his wife? So Roufail was right. A sin like that would have got him killed.
Yeah.
But Potiphar knows something. He knows his wife.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to kill Joseph, in my opinion. Only my opinion. After Joseph waits, and it says 2 years, it took for the cupbearer to remember. And then he's put over and trusted over. He waits another 7 years while things are going well and he's collecting grain. And then the famine comes and he needs to give out the food. He's now second in all of Egypt. One of his old masters comes, but maybe his old master doesn't send himself. This is just me. Maybe he sends his wife to get the grain for the family. Potiphar's wife, imagine, going up out of embarrassment to get the grain from the man that she had accused wrongly. And he gives her the grain. But this is the justice that God gives when we wait in time. Sorry, just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I know people who have not been thrown in pits and who don't want to forgive, or they'll forgive but they won't forget. They won't even want to see what God is doing. Maybe it was God that worked in Potiphar to, not maybe, definitely. But our God, our Dad, works in our waiting as well. Zacharias and Elizabeth. In Luke 1, it describes them, and it says, verse 6 to 7, it says they were, I didn't put it up, but they were righteous or faithful, but they didn't have any children. And I'm thinking, in these days, when you're describing somebody, what do we say first? Like if we say, oh, she looks beautiful but she's not married. Yeah, it's the Egyptian moms. Oh, he's very intelligent but his job is not very good. Sorry, rubbish accent.
Great examples though.
But if you want kids, especially in those days, and I'm not going to go through the details, but basically, yeah, because you could be the parent of the Messiah, that ache, that deep, deep ache, I don't even know how to describe it. Years and years of praying, unanswered prayers. We'll see the unanswered, but unanswered in that way. Please, Lord, please, Lord, please, Lord, come on. We've read in the Old Testament, we've read Hannah praying for Samuel. We've read about all these people who, Abraham and Sarah getting Isaac. We're praying, we're waiting. And other people are having babies around them. Other people are having kids. Zacharias, his job is a priest. He's circumcising all these babies. He knows all of them. Sorry. And they were being prepared, when God did give them a baby. St. John was a man of God. He was the man that prepared the way, like Elijah, they said. But it's easy for us to look at the story now and go, oh, they waited and they got a baby. It's so easy. But all those years are not easy. It's easy to look back on your hard times and just go, that was a period in my life. But when you're in it, it is probably, you don't know how to get out of it. You're lying next to this pool and people might be walking past and giving you food and patting you on the shoulder and there and some sympathy, but you have to stay in it. You are in it. You are in the middle of it. Again, David, my soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen wait for the morning. The end of the shift. When is the end of this shift? When is my work going to end? When is the morning going to come? I've got at the end. If you're in a season of waiting, you are not forgotten. The paralytic waited 38 years. You are not forgotten. It's horrible, I'm sorry, in the time, but you're not forgotten. And we'll see why. Okay, there's no slide there again. Any books in the Bible where God isn't mentioned?
Esther.
Esther! Esther. Not once in the book of Esther is God mentioned. And yet, when we were doing the girls' Bible study, Esther, God is at work. He's working. And Song of Solomon. No, go on.
The Deuterocanonical Esther is much longer, and
It's
God is
beautiful.
God is mentioned in that.
The Deuterocanonical Esther, the book is longer and God is mentioned in that. The Orthodox extra book, extra chapters. Okay, what I want to get to is behind the scenes. Have you ever organised an event? You organised a birthday party, the retreat, the food.
A wedding?
Which is wonderful, thank you, Laura.
I mean, if I wasn't sous chefing,
A lot of work went into it, right? They were shattered last year. These guys, tiring?
yeah.
Yeah. Don't remind me. Okay, so when we go to weddings, we go to parties, we go to things, we go to retreats, we come here, we go to the chosen thing on Saturday night. It's it's seamless. It looks perfect. Behind the scenes, there's loads of people preparing, getting tired, waking up at whatever. Laura, where's Laura? She woke up this morning at 6 a.m. to make us the pies. We just see, oh, there's some food there. Oh, that's really nice. They're really helpful. But somebody has been working behind the scenes. And I want to look at God working behind the scenes. So I'm going to stick with the non-Deuteronomical. So Isaiah. I've got 3 different versions of the same verse. So Isaiah 45:15. Truly you are God who hide yourself, O God of Israel. Truly, O God of Israel, you work in mysterious ways. How many times do you think, seriously, Lord? Seriously? Mind blown. Clearly, you are a God who works behind the scenes. So in the story of Esther, even with the extra books, God is mentioned later. But Esther winning the prize for beauty, her Haman and Mordecai and what happened, it's a brilliant story if you read it. I'm not going to go into all the details, but you can see, looking back, oh my goodness, God put him in that place because of that. God made the guys talk about, killing the king at that point. God made the king not sleep that night and chose a book to read, and the bit that they read of the book, you don't understand if you haven't read Esther, but go home and read it. Like everything was just coincidence, or God incidents, as somebody likes to put it. Again and again and again and again. Coincidence after coincidence after coincidence until the people are saved.
The problem is, a coincidence and like statistically unlikely events, they you can calculate mathematically the possibility of one happening, but to have a series of coincidences happening, they become like mathematically impossible. So you can transcribe it to your own lives. You can look at these events and you can try to work out mathematically if they're statistically likely or if there must be something bigger at play. Like you can mathematically verify what's going on in your life, if it's a coincidence or not. And like that's something that has always blown my mind. Like it's just like I'm desperate to try and coincidence-size these events and try and make them out as like regular, like natural. This is completely normal. This is perfectly normal. This has happened exactly like it's supposed to happen. But the more I look into it and like the more I try to do that, the more I'm reminded, like actually, here's another coincidence. here's another one. To the point where it's like I'm actually like, I will be lying to myself, or I'll be in denial of reality. I'll be living a delusion if I continue ignoring it and continue like trying to massage my own ego and my own like attempts of like.
So can I give an example of that?
Yeah.
So this is very embarrassing. Please don't tell anybody outside of this room. Remember a lot of people.
Oh, you're recording.
Oh, we're recording.
I failed. So when I failed my first driving test, when I got into the car, the driving instructor sat down, pushed the chair back, and leant back like this. And I was just really disconcerted. Like, this was just odd behaviour, and I completely failed dangerously. Like I was getting too close to cars, my, the spatial awareness thing was all rubbish. And I came out and I went, I never want to see this character. And I went home and, had more lessons, and tried again, got a different instructor, still failed, not on the same grounds. The next time I failed, I got really annoyed because everything was perfect except for you don't have to do this anymore, reverse around the corner. So I did this perfect reverse around the corner, and then the car came, and I waited. And he goes, you shouldn't have waited, you should have gone back and did it again. I was like, ah! I failed again. And then I was going through some time of prayer, and I was praying really, really hard that I passed my driving test, and I was praying in the way where we thank God before it happens. And I was like, you got this, Lord, this is it, this is my time. Woke up the next morning, walked into my driving test, and who's the instructor? Who's not instructor? The examiner. The first guy. I went, God, you have such a sense of humour. really, because like my heart was already going, and then this guy, are you serious? And he did the same thing. Like, imagine somebody sitting next to you but not really next to you. They're just horrible. And I passed. And it was like God was saying, Eman, you're going to pass. But to prove to you that it was me, I am going to give you the first guy. And I'm sure you guys have all got similar stories where it's one after another, but it's not. God has a sense of humour.
Yeah, God has a sense of humour.
Real sense of humour. There was a reading in the retreat that was read by accident. It was the wrong reading. And it was a message to me, and I was like, thank you, Lord, really. Seriously. And then they changed it. I was like, he does work behind the scenes. Okay, so if we don't see that God is doing something, we can't assume he's doing nothing, because that's what we do assume. When my boss does nothing, I assume she is doing nothing. Yeah, because she can't see the situation that we have on the ground. Because when she says she's doing something, I'm like, what? Can you see the issues we have? Yes, we see in management, we see everything. Do we believe them? No. Because we're human, and when we see humans not doing anything, we assume they're not doing anything. Not the same with God. Ephesians. I pray that the eyes of your heart, the eyes of your understanding may be enlightened. God is orchestrating an outcome. He's working like he worked in Joseph's life. An outcome that will bless you and bless others through you. Others were blessed through Joseph's life. And he will be with you through it all. Management. When they don't see what's going on and they do nothing. Are they in there with you? Depends on your manager, maybe. But somebody who is with you in it. This is something important. I'm going to show you this quote. This was found scrawled on a wall in Auschwitz. Okay, concentration camp. I believe in the sun even when it's not shining. I believe in love even when I don't feel it. I believe in God even when he is silent. Could you imagine how silent God must have been in Auschwitz? Like, how do you have that faith to believe even when he's silent? To be the paralytic, to be in the deep mire, and still to believe.
Or you don't even need to go back to Auschwitz. You can look today at what's happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
Please don't go there.
I'm gonna leave Gaza for now. I have a really, really lovely garden. Okay, nothing to do with me. We bought it off a lady who really looks after her garden. In fact, we probably ruined it. But so far it's stayed alive. And it is amazing because she has these, like perennials or whatever you call them, which means that these flowers and plants die. They die, they are gone in the winter. Gone. Like you can't see anything. And, foxes will be there trampling on, there's just nothing there, it's bare, you can see nothing. And then in the spring, these flowers come out. And every year, I'm in awe. I'm like, what? They haven't died yet, they haven't been killed completely. There is that little seed. And God works in the soil. He works when we're in the soil. Our roots are growing, things are happening behind the scenes. And when our faith falters, we need to be looking at our Bibles, we need to be looking at stories of other people whose we can see already, like with hindsight, that God has already worked behind the scenes. Build our spiritual eyes. And I'm going to read you something that I think I've said once before, but from the Screw Tape Letters. So this is C.S. Lewis. Uncle Devil is teaching his nephew Devil how to turn people away from God. And he is describing to him like the low season. So this guy, his human, is in a low season, and the young devil's really excited. He's like, yay! His faith is going to be faltered, and he's going to fall away, and he's going to be ours, yes! And the Uncle Devil says, actually he meaning the Father in heaven, relies on the troughs. The troughs are the really deep lows. More than the peaks, our mountains, our high points. Some of his special favourites have gone through longer and deeper troughs than anyone else. His creatures are to be one with him. This is his goal, and yet to be themselves. Sooner or later, our Father withdraws. He leaves the creature, us, to stand up on its own legs. He wants them to learn to walk. And he is pleased even when they stumble. Ramon, you're here? Where's Ramon? Anyway, anybody who's a parent, Yara, like, when the kids start learning to walk and they fall down, do you cry? No, it's still a pleasure to see them attempting. Our cause, so the devil's cause, is never more in danger than when a human looks around upon a universe from which every trace of him, God, seems to have vanished, and asks why he's been forsaken, and yet still obeys. That is where we grow. Times of waiting, times of being in the mire. sorry, I don't have a picture of a butterfly, but you can imagine a cocoon and a butterfly. I don't know how many of you know this, but in science, the struggle to open the cocoon is actually what gives the butterfly strength. You know, if you help a butterfly try and get out of the chrysalis, it actually, the wings come out deformed and they can't fly. That struggle of getting out of the chrysalis is what makes the butterfly strong enough to handle the world, to fly. No, not yet. I've got so much to say. Wait, let me finish. I'll never get there in the end. But God works the night shift. He works in the darkness. He works in ways we cannot see. In Exodus, the people are in the desert, and at night the Lord drove the sea back, this is as they were leaving Egypt, with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. All that night, it says. Not just at night, not just for 1 minute. All that night God was working. And then the cloud and the darkness, so the pillar of light, on one side it would be cloud and darkness to one side, to the Egyptians, and on the other side it gave light to the people of God, to the Israelites. God works in the darkness. We just can't see it, it's in the soil. Things are happening. Our seeds, our roots are growing, nutrients are getting broken down, things are happening. I love this. When we worry, we don't sleep well. When we're in the middle of rubbish, we don't sleep well. But God is awake. Sleep in peace. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel, protects, shall neither slumber nor sleep. It may be hard now, but the morning will come. And then I've got at the end, the paralytic shouldn't have any muscles to be able to carry anything, let alone his own body weight. Yet he had the muscles to carry his own body weight and his man, his faith. So not just the leg muscles, the arm muscles too. I'm going to rush a little bit. God is near to us. God is near to us, and we can call upon him. We can call upon him in our deep state, in our highs, in our lows. He works for us. Since the world began, no ear has heard, no eye has seen a God like you, who works for those who wait for him. He is serving. He is working for us. Do Greek gods work for their people? Did Zeus come down and work for humans? No. Our God comes down. Our Father comes down to our level. One of the things, if you do counselling or teaching or anything, is that when, like, a kid is on the ground, you come down to their level. Yeah? You come down to them. It gives them a safe place, not looking at them from above. God works on our behalf. Let's get that. And then there are times, I'm not going to go through all of this, he is at work in me. So this is where a guy was telling a story of when he went to buy a house, so this is in America. I don't know what the land rules are like in America, whatever, or architect. And he brought his uncle along. And his uncle was a contractor, builder, architect, something, I don't know, he was an expert. So he was looking around the house, and he was like, oh, this is a great house, look at the windows, look at the curtain, oh, it's so cute. And his uncle disappeared. And he didn't know where he was. And then suddenly he heard a few bangs, thud, this, and his uncle came down and he goes, don't buy this house. He's like, but it's so pretty. He's like, don't buy this house. Where was the uncle? He was in the loft, in the attic, in the deep dark places with all the spider webs and the cobwebs, and checking what? Checking the structure. And he's like, don't buy this house. It looks great on the outside. Yeah, we all look great on the outside, right? Yeah, we do our hair before church, we do our whatever, we look okay, we have showers, we smell nice. But God is looking at the invisible. He's looking at the attic. He's looking at the eaves. He's looking at the wood. Is it got rot in it? Do we need to change it? Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes we have to take out the old wood. Sometimes we have to make big fat holes in the house to fix it. And He works in us. And also He wants us to work with Him. So I'm saying, I've got cooking with kids. So when you cook with kids, what is the main aim of cooking with kids?
Control the chaos.
Control the chaos. What do you want them? Do you want them just to have fun? Do you want them to learn? What do you think? Huh?
Both.
Both? A bit of both? So a bit of fun, and you want them to learn how to feed themselves maybe later in life.
Without hurting themselves.
Without hurting themselves. So if you watch anybody who's cooking with kids, do you give the kid like the sharpest knife and then leave them in the room?
Absolutely not.
That might be fun, but no. Yeah, absolutely not. So you give them a job, but what you've done is actually made the job really easy. Like you've already put the batter in, or you've got everything ready and it's actually been measured out, or you get them to measure but you've got your tray there so that anything, you've worked before they even get there to help. In nurseries and schools and whatever, they work to get that area ready for the kids to learn, and the kid thinks, I'm doing it myself. And God is like, Habibi, you are doing it. I'm just in the background, but you're doing it. He wants us to work with Him. And I don't know if somebody can get that verse quickly. You have, I don't know, John 11, 38, 44. But He works with us.
Then Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him who was dead,
Who's dead? Who's dead? Lazarus.
Said to him, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you, that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Thank you. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, thank you that you have heard me. And I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you have sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out bound hand and foot, with grey clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, Loose him and let him go.
Okay. Jesus raised him from the dead. But what did he ask the people to do?
Roll the stone.
Move the stone. Why? Why?
Because he wants to share his work with us.
He wants to share the work with us. Like cooking with the kids. You can do something. You do something. I want you to help in this. So, I will raise him from the dead, but you are going to do your part. You are going to move the stone. Okay, I'm going to skip to the very last bit.
Sorry, man, it happened today. So in the middle of mass, someone fell, required resuscitation.
David was doing CPR on him.
Yeah, by the end of the mass he was revived.
Yeah.
So, he literally went from his children and grandchildren weeping over his death to being revived by the end of the mass thanks to Jesus. So, but obviously it's his CPR. Right?
Yeah. No, but you're right. You're absolutely right. So I want to come to this last bit. This is it. I'm going to stop here. We know, in fact, that God works all things together for good through and with those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. In your translations, what do you have? We know, in fact, that God works all things together for good for those who love Him, is what most people know in this verse. There is a Greek scholar who looked at the word here, and it wasn't for, it was with, and through. He works things together, all things together for good, like he did with Joseph. But Joseph had to do his part. Joseph was righteous, he was faithful. And then the next verse, everybody stops at 8:28 and goes, oh, Romans 8:28 is a lovely verse. But it's connected to 8:29, which says, you got it open?
So, and we, from 28, and we know that in all things God works together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose.
What's the purpose? Yeah.
For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed in the image of his Son. To the image of his Son.
We shall be like his Son. We shall be holy. And I've got a Leviticus verse there, but it all throughout, from the beginning, you shall be holy as I am holy. You shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. That is why we work. That is why he works in us. That is why he works for us. And that is why he works with us. And that's it.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any more questions?
Actually, one thing I want to
We'll get these.
No questions? Great.
Okay, Eman, thanks for the lovely talk. I really like the part that you said earlier about that, you know, when you are in the problem or when you are in your trouble, like, you know, people would come and like will tap on your shoulder, but you're still in that trouble, and it's only you who's there. And you also said, like, you know, about the patience, but like, you know, for this guy who was by the poolside for 38 years, I personally find that patience nowadays is like really difficult, because like everything happens in a timely manner, and we are more aware of, like, you know, of timekeeping. So like, you know, like by that time that this guy waited for, like, you know, 38 years, the whole day was divided into four sections, like for time. Like, they didn't have watches, they didn't have timekeeping as we do now. And I personally find patience really difficult these days, like, you know, for us. So have you got any?
Me too. Have you ever walked behind teenagers? They are slow.
I just sometimes find it difficult, like, you know, that patience. You know, yes, you know that God is working and God is going to do something, but sometimes it just, you know, the patience is just so difficult. Have you got any? I know, like, you know,
Yeah.
prayer and reading the Bible, like, you know, to help.
Ibrahim, unfortunately, your question has an answer.
Which is going to take a long time.
So if you have an issue with patience,
Are you going to say a joke?
no, I'm not a doctor. Don't need patience. But that wasn't my joke. No, seriously, if we've got issues with patience, then the Lord will train us. And he'll train us by putting in situations where we can grow in patience.
Lord, give me patience and I want it now. I think the way to learn patience is to go through times when we have to be patient, when we're forced to be patient. And we go through that complaining, and then hopefully we learn our lesson, but maybe he has to do it again and again and again until we grow in that, because that's one of the cobwebs that are sitting in the back of our whatever, and it's one of the fruits of the Spirit as well. You can ask for grace. I'm sure Zacharias and Elizabeth asked for lots of grace during that time of waiting.
So I have one thing, maybe practical. I found that altering, changing my environment so that it points me towards who I wish to become really helps. So if whatever distractions you have, whatever, you've heard that social media gives you a hit of dopamine and then your attention span goes down and your patience goes down, remove social media, get out of it, delete your accounts, change your environment. Whenever you feel patient, go for a walk, change your environment, change your processes, change how you navigate your life. Instead of waking up at 7 a.m, wake up at 5:30. That gives you more time in the day. Different things. So if you change your environment towards who you wish to become, I found that really helpful personally.
Hi, Eman. I really love the talk, thank you. I was intrigued by the part when you said that in our day-to-day work, we can find that we're working for God's glory or working for God. Sometimes we do recognize that God is working with us and we're very thankful for that, but we look at what we do and we might have a negative look at what we are doing, that it's maybe trivial or unimportant. How do we see in our day-to-day work, going Monday morning to work, that we are working for God?
Good question. For me, a long time ago, I used to have. Do you remember the old screensavers? Maybe you don't. But they have they'd be moving. So you could have different images. And I used to have the verse on my screensaver. But the verse that said, "Do all work as if you're working for God," and I had that verse going across my screen all the time. So whenever I wasn't looking at actually working on the screen, that would come up, and it would be a constant reminder. So when I wanted to scream at somebody, I was like, actually, I'm working. My boss is God, and I should be a light. We should be a light to the nations. We should be a light in our work. We should be righteous. Joseph.
I gotta stop because. Okay, one thing I'm gonna add is that sometimes we feel like our jobs may not be fulfilling that God purpose exactly, but it's much more than your actual job. It could be the people in your work that you have to touch their lives. It's not just about the work that we're doing. It's also maybe what God is trying to teach you through your job as well. It could be patience, could be other virtues. So don't focus so much on the vocation itself, focus on its impact in your life and the others as well.
And in the same way, if we are created in His image and His likeness, if God uses the bad for the good, then we must also work to use the bad for the good. If you're unhappy at your job, find something that you can get from it and transform it into good.
I just want to add as well on that point. Look, it is very important, but what it boils down to Eman's first point, which is that it needs to be edifying towards God, right? There's no point trying to keep to a correct schedule, waking up early and so forth, if your job is going to kill children or make weapons for Israel or whatever, right? That it's not edifying to God.